Hey everybody, how are ya? How goes it out there? Hope you're doing well. On this episode, we'll get into Google's Project Nimbus that has been revealed by a whistleblower. We'll also get into dozens of workers arrested for standing up, fighting back, which is something we should all support and be talking about. But of course, the mainstream media wouldn't dare mention something like that. They wouldn't talk about these stories. No, it's bad for them. So we'll get into that. We'll get into, I got a bunch of stuff. Oh, the Rand Corporation's analysis of why exactly we're in this proxy war. Several of you have asked that I talk about that, so I'm gonna get into that in a bit. So yeah, a lot going on. And guess what? There's a lot going on that is not just Donald Trump or the Queen. I went to CNN's YouTube page to see whether I should make fun of any of their videos today, and fucking 80% Donald Trump and the Queen. That is like all they know how to talk about. It's just Donald Trump is really, he hasn't been in power, you fuck faces, for a year. No, it's Donald Trump and the Queen. They're the two things we're allowed to talk about. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining me. Please take a minute to share this. Let folks know and click the thumbs up and click the elbows down and click the foreheads all in. Please take a moment to do that. If you haven't already, sign up at leecamp.net. And also, if you're in Berlin, London, or Stockholm, I'm coming to perform live in those cities. Little European government secrets tour. So please grab your tickets. Berlin, Stockholm, London, and that's in the beginning of October. And you can get tickets at leecamp.com, not leecamp.net, which is the community. Leecamp.net is where you get to hang out and chat with me and everything. All right, so let's do it. Let's do it. Enough of the titter tatter. Chitter chatter? Titter tatter? I don't know what titter tatter is. Also, at the towards the end of this episode, I'm going to play the new episode of Most Censored News about how the Fed has actually admitted that they're going to be crushing the average American worker. That's their goal, and I'm going to play that video at the end of this episode. But all right, so this is coming from Mint Press, who I work with for Most Censored News, but they're also a great outlet. And they have talked to the whistleblower at Google, who has revealed Project Nimbus, and more than one has come forward, but the main one is Ariel Corin. And here is the article, and it's also being hosted by Loki, the rapper and journalist. But Google, alongside Amazon, has signed a contract worth $1.2 billion. You notice nobody even mentions millions anymore. Millions just aren't even anything anymore. So you can't even get the ruling class to sit down and talk to you about millions. It's got to be in the billions to even be worth a discussion for them. So they signed a contract for $1.2 billion titled Project Nimbus, which will provide a cloud system served for both the Israeli military and the Israeli government. Because I don't know about you, but I was worried that the Israeli military and the Israeli government didn't have enough tools at their ready. Didn't have enough high-tech ability to destroy lives and track people and surveil people. Disturbingly, the project was announced May of 2021, the same month Israel killed at least 260 Palestinians in Gaza. And something they're not mentioning is that, although they have talked about, I'm not faulting Mint Press for not mentioning this here, but these are 260 Palestinians killed in Gaza in the Great March of Return who were unarmed fucking women, children, like older women, like fucking kids, fucking press with press written on their helmets and their Kevlar. And like, this was not like, oh man, we were in a battle and shit happens in a battle. This was just straight up sniper assault on children, old women, press, medics. They killed medics. So that's what went on in the Great March of Return. And in that same month, Google announced Project Nimbus, May of 2021. Adding insult to injury, it was during this period that Amnesty International found Israel guilty of practicing apartheid against the Palestinian people. Former employee Ariel Corin claims that Google systematically silences Palestinian, Jewish, Arab, and Muslim voices. By the way, I'm suddenly thinking I might have gotten that date wrong. That might not have been 2021, the Great March of Return. But still, of the 260 Palestinians killed in Gaza, they're all unarmed, innocent civilians almost entirely. And everything I just described for the Great March of Return is accurate. That was the Israeli military doing that to Palestinians. It just might have been a different date than May 2021. But former employee Corin says, Google systematically silences Palestinian, Jewish, Arab, and Muslim voices concerned about Google's complicity in violations of Palestinian human rights, to the point of formally, meaning they do it officially. They're not like quietly, but formally retaliating against workers and creating an environment of fear. In my experience, silencing dialogue and dissent in this way has helped Google protect its business interest with the Israeli military and government. According to Google spokesperson Shannon Newberry, the Project Nimbus includes making Google Cloud platform available to government agencies for everyday workloads such as finance, healthcare, transportation, and education. There's also evidence that Project Nimbus will also empower Israeli mechanisms of surveillance, data collection, and even interrogation. And let's just, to put this in perspective, think about how different this is to how people were behaving against apartheid in South Africa. When there were protests, when the protests became a national thing against South Africa for having apartheid, for literally having two separate systems, you are black, you are over there, you are not associating with us, you're not part of this country, basically. They had legit on the books laws against black people marrying white people, dating white people. Like, that's what apartheid South Africa looked like. And when it became a national issue, all of a sudden you have corporations backing out, saying, we're not going to work with South Africa. We're not going to have shows and performance over there. This is the polar opposite. This is Israel having an apartheid state, having you are Palestinian, you are over there, you are in an open air prison, you are not part of our society for the most part. We can cut off your water, we can cut off your electricity. We will destroy your lives. We will give away your territory. The settlements continue to move in, and those settlements literally go in, bulldoze Palestinian homes, businesses, etc., knock those people out of the way, put a fucking house there, and say, oh, this is Israel now and Israeli settlers here. Now, look at those two differences. You have the South African apartheid where people are pulling out and saying, this is fucked up, we can't be a part of this. Then you have Israel apartheid where fucking Google is, and Amazon, you know, they leave Amazon out of this, is signing $1.2 billion contracts to help Israel do this shit. I mean, that is fucking breathtaking, morally bankrupt pieces of shit. That is breathtaking. And you know, and of course, who else is at fault, can be faulted, can be criticized for this going on? Well, you got the mainstream media never talking about it, fucking never. You got the U.S. government, the federal government, even many of our state politicians refuse to mention the apartheid state in Israel. Even on just like a basic, even if you ignore the morally repulsive aspect of all of this, even on just a basic level, don't we believe in freedom of religion in our country? Isn't that a big thing? Aren't we? I see people running around going, freedom of religion, USA, freedom of religion, right? That's a whole thing. And then they turn around and they go, yeah, Israel's legit, Israel's fine, a Jewish state. And here's the thing. I am born and raised Jewish, atheist by choice, but born and raised Jewish. And I don't think there should be a fucking Jewish state because I think people should have freedom of religion. I think there should be democracy. You know, I think that's how it should work. And people should be able to vote no matter their religion. They should all have access to the society. So what happened to that? If we have those beliefs here in the United States, I'm not saying we always abide by them, but if we have those beliefs here in the United States, why don't we have them in Israel? Why don't we point over at Israel and go, well, that's not how a fucking society should be? No, most people don't. Many people don't. It's just amazing. So, and then to just cover give a little more background on this, and I am going to go to Democracy Now! Here. Democracy Now! Is one of those sources that does about 75% good reporting, and then 25% they're like, you know what? Let's throw in some State Department garbage here. Let's act like the fucking white helmets, which have been debunked, were created just endlessly, were created by an MI6 fucking operative. Like, let's go and let's act like white helmets are legit. Let's go to them for our source on Syria. So I don't know. Democracy Now! Is one of those sources. So, and this is part of media literacy. You got to understand your media. You got to understand where shit's coming from. You got to understand what they're good on, what they're bad on. And, try and go to the sources that are only good. But occasionally, if it's a topic that they're covering correctly, you can, there's some sources that are like, all right, here and there. So here's from Democracy Now! Covering the same topic. No tech for apartheid. Google workers push for cancellation of the secretive $1.2 billion project with Israel. And the reason they keep saying no tech for apartheid is that's the slogan of many Google workers who have stood up against this, who are fighting back against this. A national day of action is planned next Thursday. And I think that, let's see. Oh, I think it's already happened because this is an older mock. This is from 2 weeks ago. So I guess that day of action has already happened, but that doesn't mean we can't keep talking about this and keep raising awareness on the fact that Google is a shit state of a corporation. Big surprise. Big surprise that one of the largest American corporations in the world, Google, Amazon, are just the worst. The worst. And of course, you could, if you really wanted to be smart about this, connect that to capitalism. Oh, if you're going to be the biggest corporation, one of the biggest corporations in America, do you think you're spending a lot of time caring about the little people? Do you think you're spending a lot of time trying to help make sure that people are just doing well out there? Or do you think you're doing the bidding of the American empire? That's how you get to be the biggest corporation in America. And if you were to get up there and you weren't doing the bidding of the American empire, they'll start putting some pressure on you. Like, for example, Facebook. Now, there's plenty of fucking complaints of Facebook. Facebook's been a data thief since day one. So I'm not saying Facebook is Mr. Great Company, but Facebook and Zuckerberg, they weren't doing enough of the bidding of the corporate state, of the fucking U.S. government. They weren't suppressing and deleting those of us speaking the truth about issues like Russiagate being a fucking ridiculous hoax, or revealing, or standing up for Occupy Wall Street, or revealing the truth about Wall Street in general, or revealing the truth about Syria and the U.S. arming and funding al-Nusra and other al-Qaeda affiliates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They weren't suppressing that enough. So the U.S. federal government started putting pressure on them, said, we're going to break you up. We're going to destroy Facebook, etc. Now, Facebook, I've been shadow banned since 2016, ever since Bernie's rise. It's funny how those correlated, but I've basically been shadow banned on Facebook for years now. And some of you may even be watching me on Facebook. And for those of you watching me on Facebook going, he's not shadow banned on Facebook. I just saw him here. I'm watching him on Facebook right now. Yeah. You want to know what percentage of my followers, of those who subscribed to my page, you are? Most of my videos on Facebook are seen by maybe 100 people, couple hundred. You know how many people follow, took the time to go click subscribe on my Facebook page? 330,000. So if a couple of hundred people see a post and you have 330,000 followers, that's essentially shadow banned. That is borderline meaningless when you spent 10 years building something up. Anyway, that tangent aside, I love a good tangent. Is there anything better than a good tangent? A national day of action plans. Protests grow against Google's secretive $1.2 billion program known as Project Nimbus, which will provide advanced artificial intelligence tools to the Israeli government and military. We speak with two of the leaders of the protest, Ariel Cohen, a former Google employee who says she was pushed out for her activism, as well as Gabriel Schubner, who currently works at Google and is an Alphabet's the parent company, Alphabet Workers Union organizer. Cloud technology is extremely powerful, and providing that power to a violent military and to an apartheid government is not a neutral act. Yeah, you think? The pair also detail how workers are rising up against what Corin says is Google's culture of retaliation. So they talk a lot about how simply for standing up against this, even not for standing up against Google, but simply for supporting Palestinian rights, simply for supporting Palestine as an existence. Like they were attacked, warned by HR, etc. So it's not even just revealing this project by Google. It also is just standing up for Palestinians in general. They get attacked, they get maligned, they get pushed out of the office, etc. She was Corin said that when they came after her, they said, "Oh, we're transferring you to Sao Paulo or something, somewhere around the world. We're shipping you there, and you can either quit or go there in the next few days." So that's what they do when they're afraid that they can't actually retaliate. So they're afraid they can't fire you for supporting Palestine. So instead, they're just like, "Yeah, we're transferring you to the country of broom closet." Yeah, it says right here. Would you like to go to broom closet? Because that's where you'll be headed from here on out. One last thing on this topic before we move on. In one Nimbus training webinar, a Google engineer confirmed to an Israeli customer that it would be possible to process data through Nimbus in order to determine if someone is lying. Like, AI is getting so good, they're able to figure out almost real time whether someone's lying or not, which really sucks because is there anything better than lying? I mean, a good lie, like a good juicy lie, that's what life's all about. No, I'm kidding, of course. I never lie to you guys. So there's that. I lie to everyone else in my life, but not you guys. I care about you. But you know what's funny is like the more and more they create this technology that it can be used for things like figuring out lies in real time and stuff like that. They don't use it against the ruling elite. Like all that shit is used for the ruling class. The higher level technology we get, the more it's used to just suppress, oppress, harm, destroy workers, average people. It's not gonna be used against the Department of Defense. You know, the more this happens, you think they're gonna be like, oh yeah, the Pentagon. We're gonna out whether the Pentagon's lying in real time. No, they use it for the Pentagon to fuck us over. And this is going to be an ongoing theme of technology. Technology increases exponentially, and when you're in a imperialist capitalist system, the best technology is used by the ruling class, and it's going to be used to suppress, to milk for some things, you know, to steal the money from, but also to suppress, to oppress. Like that is what the increase in technology will be used for more and more. And you're gonna, if the world has any justice, you're gonna see more and more protests against that use of technology, because the technology is gonna get insane and it's gonna be used to attack all of us. But all right, so let's move on to the next topic. By the way, in about 10 to 20 minutes, this live stream will only be at rumble.com/LeeCamp. For now, we will continue on several platforms, but eventually the rest of it will be at rumble.com/LeeCamp. So it's free to watch over there. There's nothing stopping you. There's nobody that's you're not gonna try and go over there, and then there's gonna be a guy being like, hey, back the fuck up, okay? No, it's totally free. So head on over to rumble.com/Lee Camp. And for those of you who are like, Lee, why you got to Rumble? I like YouTube. I like Facebook, whatever. YouTube, I'm the most censored comedian in America. Don't believe the other garbage people who say they're the most censored, because as far as I know, their channel has not been banned globally, as well as 1,000 videos banned globally. So maybe there's a few. I don't know about them, but let me know. Anyway, so I had to go and create a channel that wouldn't be deleted. So that's kind of Rumble's business model. So head over to Rumble. Actually, if you give me 1 second, I'll put the link in the chat here, so you can go watch live over at rumble.com/Lee Camp. Here we go. And at the end of this episode, I will be showing the new episode of the Most Censored News, which is about the Fed, the Federal Reserve, and they have admitted that they have a plan to cause more pain against average Americans. And the real reason they're doing this, and this has been leaked from Bank of America memos, from other large corporate entities. The reason the Fed is doing this is because workers have gotten too much power. Workers are standing up, and the Fed knows that raising interest rates will cause a recession. Workers will be crushed, and that's their goal. A lot of people think the Fed's goal is to have a nice, happy economy. No, the Fed's goal, at least right now, for this action is to crush workers at all costs. All right, so I asked over on my locals page, and by the way, leecamp.net is how you get to my locals page. Leecamp.net. Locals is like Patreon, except it's better. They promise, their whole business model is based on not deleting people for saying things they don't like. Patreon, meanwhile, has been deleting accounts that they don't like. So leecamp.net is my locals page. I posed the question to everybody at locals, what topics do you want to see me cover? And I'm trying to get to some of those as much as I can. So here's one that more than one person said they wanted me to cover, and I thought it was a great topic. So thank you for that. Those of you at leecamp.net who asked me to cover this. And it is the Rand Corporation. Now, the Rand Corporation does these large analysis of U.S. foreign policy. The Rand Corporation famously was where Daniel Ellsberg worked and got his hands on the Pentagon Papers, which revealed everything about Vietnam, right? About how fucked Vietnam was. And that was one of the biggest leaks. Until WikiLeaks existed, that was one of the biggest leaks that had come out. So this is an analysis from Rand Corporation that has been leaked. And it says, overextending and unbalancing Russia, assessing the impact of cost-imposing options. And this shows an analysis by one of the large corporate state rulers of America. I mean, we are an inverted totalitarian system. We are ruled by the anonymous corporate state. One of the most powerful ones is Rand Corporation. And this is them saying why, basically outwardly saying why the United States has created a proxy war in Ukraine. This brief summarizes a report that comprehensively examines nonviolent cost-imposing options that the U.S. and its allies could pursue across economic, political, and military areas to stress, overextend, and unbalance Russia's economy and armed forces and the regime's political standing at home and abroad. Now, just think about that sentence, because it's easy to glaze over it and just go, okay, what's the big deal? Before Ukraine started, before the invasion of Ukraine started, right, in February this past year, the idea, ostensibly, hypothetically, is that Russia was a country that, to a large degree, we were still working with. Like, there was still some diplomatic entity. There was all of our corporations over there, right? McDonald's, Citibank, fucking all this shit. Still, Russian society still had plenty of U.S. corporations in there. A lot of oil deals going on. Russia was also still working with our allies, Germany, France, a lot. 40% of all energy, as it's called, really it should be called planetary death fluid. 40% of all planetary death fluid that people were using throughout the EU and Britain was coming from Russia. So At that time, for us to say that we want to unbalance Russia's economy and cause severe pain to Russia would be like a fucking alarm bell. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You want to go after an unstable, like destabilize another nuclear power and just see what happens? Like, that should make everyone furious that that's being discussed. But here it is. This is the analysis of our corporate America saying that our goal in this proxy war is to destabilize Russia, cause economic harm and pain, cause political destabilization, and stress their military, overextend and unbalance them. All things that, if you support peace in the world, if you support, because here's the other thing is, like, when countries go to war with each other, who really suffers? Is it the ruling class usually? No, it's the fucking average people. It's you and me. It's the average people of Ukraine right now that are fleeing with their houses and their dogs on their backs. Like that, it's average Russians. The fucking average Russians that are suffering because of sanctions, although really the sanctions have backfired against us. But average Americans, average Europeans that are fucked because Russia's now retaliating for all of these sanctions. And the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we made sure to help cause that. That doesn't mean I support it. I'm opposed to it. I've said I'm opposed to it over and over and over again. People like to pretend I'm not opposed to it, but no, I'm anti-war, I'm opposed to the invasion. But that doesn't change the fact. It doesn't change the reality that the U.S. helped create that invasion. Some of the options, the Rand article continues. Some of the options examined are clearly more promising than others, but any would need to be evaluated in terms of the overall U.S. strategy for dealing with Russia. Today's Russia suffers from vulnerabilities, and they go into how to do that. Economic cost-imposing measures, expanding U.S. energy production could be one of them, they say, imposing deeper trade and financial sanctions, increasing Europe's ability to import gas from suppliers other than Russia, encouraging the immigration from Russia of skilled labor and well-educated youth. So trying to cause a brain drain from Russia. But you look at some of these other things that they recommend. And they get into down here in cost-imposing options for Russia. Provide lethal aid to Ukraine. This report was written before the invasion of Ukraine. So imagine you're in a peaceful world, at least where it had to do with Ukraine and Russia, but that's not actually true because Ukrainian Nazis killed 14 to 15,000 people in the Donbass region. There's been a war in the Donbass region of Ukraine since 2008, or 2014, sorry, when we created the coup in Ukraine. But still, we'll say mostly peaceful. And here we are with our top corporate think tanks saying that we should provide lethal aid to Ukraine to overextend, their words, Russia. They view that, they rate that as high benefits. They then say increase support to Syrian rebels. And by the way, Syrian rebels in the U.S. view of things includes Al-Qaeda affiliates, al-Nusra, jihadists, people that decapitate those who disagree with them in the middle of the square, in the middle of town squares. So when we say increased support to Syrian refugees, when Rand Corporation says that, what they mean is give arms and money. Sorry, did I say Syrian refugees? Syrian rebels. It means give arms and money to fucking Al-Qaeda. So it sounds nice, right? Oh, give money and arms to Syrian rebels. Oh, it sounds so sweet, right? Like, oh, Syrian rebels. I like you. Like, if you watch CNN and MSNBC and maybe even Fox News, and that's all you watch and that's all you get, You think Syrian rebels equals people fighting to stop Assad, and Assad equals bad. That is the entirety of the analysis. When in fact, a lot of the Syrian rebels, so-called the moderate rebels, are fucking terrorists. They're straight up Al Qaeda. They don't like us. They would, if you were American walking in front of them, they very well might just kill you. But we're willing to arm them because we know it hurts Assad in Syria. And in our view, it hurts Russia because Russia was invited by Assad to support Assad. So for those of you who say, yeah, Russia's in Syria too, right? America's in Syria, yes, but Russia's in Syria too. Well, there is a difference because Syria does have a government. You don't have to say you like the government. You don't have to say the government's democratically elected, which it's not. But Syria has a government, just like Saudi Arabia, which is not democratically elected, has a government, just like the fucking monarchy of England is not elected. But Saudi Arabia has an unelected government, and we still acknowledge that that is the government. The U.S. does. So Syria has a government, and the Syrian government asked Russia to support them. So make of that what you will, but that's different than the U.S. invading a sovereign nation like Syria. Anyway, as you can see on this report, increased support. And by the way, support also means fucking arms, weapons of death. Don't you love our euphemisms? Just the word support to mean like fucking weapons of death. Like I love no one has better terminology than the fucking U.S. military, which Rand Corporation essentially is Pentagon adjacent. How about I give that guy support? Could you imagine using that terminology in your everyday life? Like you go over and help some dude kill his wife. You're like, here's a gun. I gave him support. I supported him in his pursuits, whatever they may be. Then they go on, promote liberalization in Belarus. Liberalization means neoliberal, fucking support U.S. hegemony. In our view, open up the society. Now, in some regards, if it weren't the U.S. doing it, if it weren't the largest death machine in the world, the U.S. military, if it weren't the largest empire in the world, the U.S. with 900 military bases around the world, if it weren't us doing it, then opening up of a society, allowing more democracy, that kind of thing, that could be a legitimate goal. But it can't come from an empire that owns the world and kills millions. The latest numbers, and these are not, I don't think these numbers are argued against. They're just not talked about. But the latest numbers are we've killed 6 million over the past 20 years in our war on terror. That's just those the Arab countries connected to our war on terror. That's not the, for example, 100,000 apparently we've killed in Venezuela with our sanctions against Venezuela. But so you can't murder that many people, have just mass killing fields of murder and go, we'd like to help you open up your society. We'd like to help you liberalize your society. You can't be the guy saying that. You can't, Hannibal Lecter can't go, I'd like to help some children achieve some freedom. I'd like to. If Hannibal Lecter goes, there's not enough democracy in Belarus, so I'm going to go help him out there. I feel like most of us would be like, it's not real. I don't know if we should trust. I don't know if he should be the guy. Then they say expand ties in South Caucasus, which is Caucasian means white people. Reduce Russian influence in Central Asia. And I have no idea what flipping Transnistria. Honestly, all right. I'm going to have to appear dumb on this one. What the fuck is Transnistria? Post-Soviet frozen conflict zone. Is it in Moldova? is an unrecognized breakaway state. Okay. That is internationally recognized as part of Moldova. So it's us trying to cut up other countries, which we love doing. We love being like, we love pointing to anybody who's an enemy. So we point to China and we go, Taiwan's not part of you, even though China says Taiwan's part of China. The Taiwan government says Taiwan's part of China, and 100 and I can't remember, it's 50 countries, 190 countries, almost all of the countries say Taiwan officially recognize Taiwan as part of China. And in fact, the United States largely recognizes Taiwan as part of China, but we are trying to balkanize, to take off little pieces. We're like, oh, that's a breakaway. That's a separatist area. We'll take some of that. It's like a buffet for the fucking U.S. empire. We'll take some of that, and we'll like some of that, and we'll take Transnistria away from you, and this from you, and so sometimes we just rip them out of a country, but other times we take something that is a country and we just cut off relations. So we're trying to cut off relations between Belarus and Russia is basically the example. I mean, basically the goal. So then shall we continue with Rand's lovely? I mean, does this not tell you everything for what? I mean, this is like exactly what the U.S. is doing to try and crush Russia, which, like Russia, if you look at it statistically, sheer numbers, Russia is far less belligerent, far less warlike, killing far less people. Yes, I'm opposed to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and people are dying in that fight, in fucking Ukrainian Nazis versus Russians. People are dying, and I'm opposed to war, so there's that. But it ain't getting close to the number we've killed in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, with our sanctions, with our economic war on countries. It's not getting close to the numbers that the U.S. empire has killed recently. But anyway, continuing down this. Other ideological and informational cost-imposing options diminish faith in the Russian electoral system. That's one goal. Create the perception that the regime is not pursuing the public interest. And here's the thing. I don't live in Russia. I'm not Russian. I'm not part of Russia. And I don't have tons of like internal Russian independent media that I can read to go, this is exactly what's happening internally in Russia. I don't know the percentages actually of people that are unhappy there. That's because if you read those numbers from our garbage sources, then it's just propaganda. But the Russian people should make their own choices about their country. So when we write something like this, when Rand Corporation writes something like, create the perception that the regime is not pursuing public interest, that means whether they are or not. That means put out propaganda, spray propaganda out of our U.S. propaganda hole, and try to create that perception, whether it's true or not. Now, if it's true that that the Russian government is not doing what the people want there, then okay, fucking talk about that. But this report is saying create the perception. Just create the fake idea that the Russian government is not doing what people want. Anyway, by the way, this is going to go to justrumble.com in a minute. Encourage domestic protests and other nonviolent resistance. Could you imagine how fucking furious the U.S. government would be if Russia was putting out papers like this saying, yeah, so our goal is to create violent protests, domestic protests. Oh, sorry, nonviolent, but still, our goal is to create protests inside the United States. Like if they put out papers saying that was their plan, the United States would lose our fucking shit. And here we are doing the exact same thing. All right, so we're going to go to rumble.com right now. I hope you'll join me over there. Even if you aren't going to join me over there, it's free to watch, by the way. Rumble.com/LeeCamp. I hope you'll go to leecamp.net, become a member. That I'm completely independent. That is the only way this keeps going, that my show keeps going. That's the only way Most Censored News, my other show, keeps going, is out of the support. And it's small level support, folks. We're talking, most people are signed up for, a few dollars here and a few dollars there. So that's how I'm able to even keep any of this alive after being censored on so many platforms and having my TV show deleted from all of history. That it's the only way, leecamp.net. So for those of you who have done it already, thank you. I can't thank you enough. But I'm going to head over to rumble.com/leecamp. And I am also going to play the new episode of Most Censored News. So I hope you guys will enjoy that over there. And also we'll finish up this topic right now about Rand Corporation. Just give me 1 second.